Hi, everyone. Welcome to this workshop about creating authentic, relevant, and consistent content in a way that will build your business steadily. Now, the way we do that, of course, is that when you create great content that, when I say great, I don't mean your book has to win awards or your social media has to win awards or anything, but it's great because it is natural and authentic to you, and it's relevant to what your audience wants from you. And so if it's relevant to them, they're more likely to share it forward. And if they share it forward, guess what? Your business grows naturally, organically. And isn't that what we all want? We all want a business that can grow in an organic way. Word of mouth is really the holy grail that all of us business owners are trying to go after. Wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to go out and hustle for business, but business comes to you naturally because people go, oh, Barbara, I saw that post you made, or Leslie, I saw that video, or Michelle, that was a really great thought you put on social media, and I looked at your website, and I want to work with you. Right. So that's what we're working on, and you will get there if you continue to practice your own content and making it consistent. Okay, so I'm going to put a template right in the chat for us to take a look at. And there's a link. If you look at the chat right now, there is a link that if you click on it, it will invite you to make a copy of the template for your own use. And so go ahead and make a copy of the template, because you can go ahead and type directly in the template even during this workshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see the template. Maybe you can't copy it right now for some reason. You'll be able to look at it on my screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and share my screen with you here. So once again, I'm going to put the template, the link in the chat if you want to click on it and use that. Okay. All right, so here we go. And by the way, if you're able to put your own answers from the template in the chat, like what you can do is you can put ideal audience in all capital letters in the chat, and then put what you know about your ideal audience right there in the chat. That way, not only do you get the notes later, because you'll be able to search for your name in the chat and find that, but you'll also be able to get more of us understanding whom we might refer to you and what your business is. So you might as well go ahead and put your answers in the chat, whatever you're willing to. Of course, some things might be private, but most of us, it's fine. Okay, are you all able to see my screen right now? Okay, great. So let's get going here. First of all, content, like every piece of content has an arc, right? There's usually a beginning, middle, and a denouement and end, something like that, long pieces of content. So I kind of played on that acronym of ARC, and I say, you know what? Authentic, relevant, consistent. That's what I'm teaching people how to do here. So what does authentic mean? Authentic means, imagine making videos or writing things that feel really natural to you, that feel like you're serving, that it's not salesy. It doesn't feel like you're trying to manipulate people to do something. And it just feels like you are serving the world. Imagine if your content can be a cause. This is how I see my content. And I hope this is how you'll see yours. Your free content is a cause. Like, the more people see your free content, the better, isn't that? Because more people will be helped. And of course, more people will find out about what you do. So authentic is energizing to you. It's of service. It feels natural to you. Relevant means it gives your ideal audience what they want from you. It's such a simple idea, but so many of us forget it, that yes, content needs to not only be authentic, but you need to occasionally look at, of the 10 things I posted in the past, 2 weeks or whatever, which of those 10 things got most engagement, got liked the most, commented the most, maybe even shared forward. Well, take a notice at who is commenting and liking and sharing it forward, because if those people are your ideal client types of people, then that means that piece of content is relevant to your ideal audience. So don't think about content as just, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want. I should be able to, this is my passion. This is my ideas, my peak experience. I'm just going to share what I want. And, because my experience is so important to the world, they all should love me. They all should love what I write, The funny thing is, all of us feel that way, right? All of us feel that way. All of us feel like, why can't I just share my heart and let people go, oh, they love me so much. Yes, you can share your heart, but not every single piece of thing you share is going to be relevant to your people. So you need to look back occasionally. Now, this is the key, occasionally. I don't want you posting something and then 5 minutes later go, did anybody love me yet? Because that is conditional love, okay? That is no longer, of service. It's like it basically becomes, and this is so dangerous with Facebook and social media, is that it kind of encourages us to do that. Post something and like, oh, come back 10 minutes later. How did it do? But I want you to do this occasionally. So don't look like, so what I do is I send a weekly newsletter, right, over email. That is when I go back to the postings of the previous week and go, which ones did well? And then of course I also send a monthly newsletter to those who just want monthly. And that's when I go back once a month and go, of the things I posted in the past month, which ones did particularly well? Meaning, which ones were particularly relevant? So that's when I look at the relevance, okay? And consistent is basically having a rhythm where your audience expects something from you. Now imagine if you follow a TV show and the TV show goes, yeah, we're just going to broadcast whenever we feel like it. Sometimes it's every day, sometimes it's once every 2 or 3 months. No one is going to enjoy that TV show or they're gonna be kind of annoyed. And actually, more importantly, there are many, many other TV shows that are consistent and that are great. And so the people are gonna watch that. Same thing with you. When it comes to social media, when it comes to content in really even since 2000s, you are your own channel. You are your own network, okay? Media network. And you need to be consistent if you want your ideal audience to say, I can count on seeing Amy's posts, on a regular basis, something like that, right? So go ahead and type into the chat, and some of you have already started doing that, so thank you, Amy. Type into the chat, who do you think your ideal audience is? And this doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just whatever you know right now. And I will tell you, I am learning more about my ideal audience every single year, maybe every single month. And sometimes the ideal audience changes. So just what you know right now. Okay, so your ideal audience are the people who are here's the key, most likely to become your best clients. Okay, now, if you didn't have a business and we were just writing for the sake of writing, then, it could be just about anybody who likes your content. But here we're talking about, of all the people who would like your content, who is most likely, in your opinion, to become your best clients, the people that you really can help the most through your business. Okay? So the great thing is when you're able to describe them a bit, you can really see them in your mind and your heart when you create content. And guess what? This is when the melding of your authenticity, it melds with the relevance to them. Because if I'm just talking to a wall, I'm being relevant to the wall, okay? But if I'm talking to Barbara or to Leslie or to Michelle, if I can see her in my mind's eye and my heart, then I'm going to be writing to Barbara. Does that make sense? I'm going to be making a video for her. So I'm going to pause right now and give you another minute to write that into the chat if you wish to do so. It's great. Thank you. Yes, and thank you for those who are mentioning others by name. If you see what someone has written that goes, you know what, I know somebody just like that, or I know somebody who knows a lot of people like that, I'm sure they will be grateful for you mentioning that. Now, of course, you'll get the chat transcript later by filling out the feedback form, so you'll be able to go back and do some service-based networking that way as well. But let's, for the moment, and you'll be able to, of course, work on this template on your own time. And I hope you do. I hope you'll take this as your homework. I'm giving you the homework right in the front here. Okay, so let's go down to the transformational framework. All right, so this is really cool, I think. And I know that some of you have a framework and some of you don't. And for those, whether you do or don't, you can go ahead and start putting into the chat whatever you know about your framework. And I want to use a sort of a nature-based analogy for this. So your framework is basically like the forest. The sections, imagine a forest and you see the sections of the forest. Oh, this part is more dense. That part is, there's a pond there. There's a forest and you see the sections of it. And this is like the sections of your framework. So for example, I'll show you what my framework is. You can see my screen. This is the authentic business framework. And the cool thing I like about this new framework that I have is that it's alphabetized, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and that's about it. So there's 12 pieces of the framework. And the stuff on the right-hand side is sort of like, if you're in business, you have to pretty much work on these things, okay, on the right-hand side. And the stuff on the left is really more for anybody who has, a message that they want to share with the world, including business owners. And so the left is sort of, you could say the left is either optional or it's foundational. I can't figure out which one it is. But, what I'll do is I'll share the link of this framework in the chat. But, the great thing about using a mind map like this is you can click on this to open it and you'll be able to see what the various parts of that framework is. And you can click on the little green bubbles to be able to open it up some more and, scroll around on the map. So let me share this with you here. Okay. So start thinking about your own framework and what are the major pieces of your framework. And I posted mine in the chat. Okay, so basically your framework could be like mine here. So typically a framework is, 3 steps or 7 steps, or of course, in the case of, Alcoholics Anonymous, it's 12 steps, right? Or Byron Katie's work has 4 questions. I know very little about her work. We've got Michelle and others here who are pros. But 4 questions, that's the framework, right? Or who else? Who else has a framework? Post in the chat if you can think of any other person's framework. So it's usually a number of things. It's a set number of things. 4 questions, 12 steps, 5 parts. And it could either be sequential, like you go this before this, before this, before this, or it is just, some frameworks can be as creative as you want. You could have concentric circles as a framework. Here, what I do basically is I use a mind map to convey both, and I use the alphabetizing system to convey both a sequence as well as the fact that something is on the right-hand side, something is on the left-hand side. It conveys some kind of separation between the 2 bodies of ideas. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and put in the chat, what do you know about your framework up to now, especially the different parts of it. Go ahead and put that into the chat. And Laura has a good point that, sometimes what she does is she helps people with creativity. So she says creativity is not a linear experience for most people. Therefore, the framework is gaining awareness of where a client would like to be, would like to be through a slower out-of-the-box experience, but using tools to get there. Okay. No matter how amorphous your framework is, there is still a framework. Okay. What I mean by that is you will notice as you work with more and more people, you tend to see the same problems coming up again and again. You see what I mean? Like, oh, well, to be creative, they first must be in touch with their own confidence. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up right now. Okay. It's like, oh, okay. So confidence is part of my framework. Oh, to be creative means that they need to be aware that it's not just doing what they're currently doing. So, okay, out of the box is another piece of my framework. So it's sort of like there's always something that's in common with just about all of your clients. And that's what I'm talking about, okay? And Jason says, what if I have a lot of frameworks? That's a really good point. When you have a lot of frameworks, those aren't frameworks. Those are the trees, okay? So Jason, if you think you have a lot of frameworks, each framework is actually a piece of your larger framework. right? Make sense? So once you have your framework written down, then you'll realize that for each major piece, each major section of the forest, there are trees, of course, in that section of the forest. So the trees are the specific tools, the exercises you use. So for example, if I'm talking about, the audience part of my framework, well, what are the trees? The trees are these questions. What's the likely audience? Write down the external traits you know. Write the internal traits. So these are all the trees, okay, of that section of the forest there. Make sense? And Kelsey says, how do you start figuring out your framework? That's a really good point. You need to, okay, so the way to really start, the way I like to start brainstorming is like to have a blank mind map. Actually, I use a mind map, but you can use anything you want, a document, and start writing down what you think the framework might be. If someone were to say, all right, Kelsey, give me a framework in the next half hour, what would you have to write down? Does that make sense? Okay, now that's your hypothesis. You start with a hypothesis, and then you use the sessions you have with clients and the teachings you do in workshops or whatever it may be to change your hypothesis or to confirm it, to say, wait, am I really needing this part of the framework, or is it really something different? Oh, wait, step 3 actually comes before step 1. I just realized that. Okay, so let's switch those. So you have to start with hypothesis based on your own intuition. Maybe you have a certain training, and obviously the training gives you a framework. But if it's your own, then you need to start with your intuition, your own experience, in other words, and then confirm or change the hypothesis as you go, as you work with clients. Make sense? You need to use your framework with clients. Otherwise, what's the point of the framework? And then you also need to teach workshops about the framework. Otherwise, how will people know about your framework? Okay. You need to talk about your framework in your content. In your free content, you give the very casual, easy pieces of your framework. Okay. Okay. So Jan says, I use a labyrinth as a metaphor to go inward for self-knowledge. I always start with this. I also use an acronym DREAM. So Jan, I would say DREAM is your framework, whatever that means. And the labyrinth is actually a tool within that framework. So maybe D, the labyrinth is a tool as part of the D. And then in the R, you have other tools. So that's how I would frame it. But again, your framework is your framework. So you need to be really happy with the thing you present, right? Okay. So the third part of your transformational framework is the ecosystem, okay, meaning your forest coexists with other parts of the ecosystem, the lake, the mountains, the beach, the jungle, other forests. So how does your forest relate to the other parts of the ecosystem? Other people's frameworks, okay, especially famous people's frameworks, because that's what your audience is going to understand. It's like, oh, okay, so my thing is not quite the same as the work from Byron Katie, because Byron Katie's work is really good for this type of issue or this type of person, and my framework is really good for this type of person. So in other words, think about your forest as being, because really the framework is basically your forest. The trees are within that. But think of your forest as having certain species that thrive within the forest. You may have monkeys that can thrive in your forest, right? But that monkey will drown in the ocean, which is someone else's ecosystem. Does that make sense? Someone else's fish in their ecosystem of the ocean is gonna die in your forest. It just doesn't fit. So for example, authentic business framework, people who are like, George, it's all about profits in business. I don't care about all this woo-woo stuff about service and joyful stuff. I'm glad that they think my thing is too woo-woo or whatever, because my framework is not meant for them. Does that make sense? The way I relate to the other ecosystems in business, cutthroat, mercenary business, which is what most business is, unfortunately. Competition, going to war, all these terminologies in business. Did you know a campaign is basically from war times, right? Or making a killing, or dominating the market, or crushing it. All these, that's mainstream business. And I'm trying to set myself apart and say, hey, if you don't thrive in that ecosystem, come over to mine, right? And now if you think my ecosystem is too whatever, it doesn't match you, go over to the mainstream one. The hustle culture, great. You'll love that. you'll really resonate with that, right? So it's not about making someone else wrong. And I know sometimes I tend to have I have the tendency in some of my content to say, oh, I wish the six-figure marketers would stop saying what they're saying. And I'm really talking to my tribe. I'm basically telling the people of my forest to say, you know what, this is why you're thriving in my forest and not in, in the ocean, or not on the top of the mountain, or whatever it may be. Does that make sense? So what about your ecosystem? Think about how is your framework better in terms of for whom? For whom is your framework better versus other solutions? So I'll give you another example, complementary medicine versus mainstream medicine. Some people just say, dude, just give me the surgery, give me the pills. That's all I want. And then others are like, no, I would rather avoid the surgery if I can. I would rather avoid the pills if I can. I would rather have a more holistic method that might mean, light healing and all that stuff that I believe in. And then the mainstream people will be like, what the F? A light healing? You got to be kidding, right? So it's not that they're wrong or one is right. It's just that it's better for certain people versus others. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the FAQs now. And you'll have time to, keep on thinking about this. In other words, make a distinction between your framework. How is it distinguished from other things? Otherwise, if it's so similar to what others are teaching out there, then it doesn't, not only does it not stand out, but why are people coming to you instead of somebody else? If what you do, and even if you do somebody else's framework, like you do Byron Katie's The Work, well, you do it differently. Like you apply the work to dating, or you apply the work with improvisation or whatever it may be. It's different from how Byron Katie typically does it. Does that make sense? So that's the ecosystem. All right. Okay. Yes. So Noe says, my framework is the right match for people who are looking for something gentler, more spiritually nourishing than a lot of the high energy parent-child offerings out there. Great. That's a really nice distinction, right? Okay. And my framework has changed over the years. I think that's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is you get to be creative. And being creative means that you can change your framework every couple of years. I do. I start over with a blank piece of paper probably every 2 to 3 years. All right, I'm going to create a brand new framework. Of course, it borrows from a lot of the previous stuff, but it's my new thinking, my newest way of framing this stuff. And so be open to that. And don't know that you're not creating a framework for the rest of your life, in other words. So do not give yourself that pressure, okay? Don't give yourself that pressure, all right? Just create something that's useful now. Okay, so the FAQs. So for each piece of your framework, what questions do clients typically ask you? Let's just start with that. Okay, so go ahead and think about your first piece of your framework. What questions might clients ask you about that first piece of your framework? And just as a reminder, the chat does go very fast, and you will be getting the full chat transcript later when you fill out the feedback form. So don't worry about keeping up in the chat. I do encourage you to type into the chat whenever you can. Here's something you like, or you have your own thoughts on the questions that I'm asking you. That'd be great. So typing is encouraged, reading is optional, and do refer to one another's names if you see something that you're liking, that you're celebrating, that you want to resonate with. Wonderful. Thank you, Amy, for that comment to Michelle. Okay, now the next question, what questions would ideal potential clients likely ask you? Now, you might say, well, this is the same question, just said in a different way. And yes, it may be, but I purposely do this because maybe you could think of some of your current clients and they're already asking more advanced questions, whereas prospective clients don't know how to ask the advanced questions yet. So they might be asking the more beginner questions, right? Okay, I'm not going to give time for every single section of this template today. I'm just going to talk through it, and you'll have time to do this when you do the homework, because I have a lot to cover today. But here's another one that I want to bring forth, which is what they ask: how an idea is related to a current event or trend. If you can relate your framework or something about your expertise to a current event or trend, that piece of content is going to probably be more popular or more relevant on social media or just in general. So think about that. What's going on in the world right now, or what's going on in industry that you can talk about connected to your framework? So for example, for me, I am probably, twice a month, I make a video, maybe more than that, 2 to 4 times a month. I make a video talking about a current trend in my industry of, marketing to coaches and whatever. It's like, it's so, anyway. So that I find that people really, really resonate with those videos, because they're like, oh yeah, I just saw that the other day. Make sense? So try to definitely answer that question. Okay, so your homework here is to write as many questions as you can based on these, basically the answers to these questions are questions, right? Write as many as you can, and then prioritize the questions from the most likely asked to the least likely asked. And what you have just done when you do this, so for example, Catherine says, how can I survive and thrive as a new mom? Okay, how can I survive and thrive as a new mom is, Catherine, the title of your next blog post. Or it can be. Or certainly a jumping off point to your next blog post, video, whatever piece of content you want to create. So in other words, the questions you're putting here are either the titles or the topics of your pieces of content. Make sense? And these content, because you're answering these questions here, they're probably going to be relevant to your ideal audience. All right? Okay, let's go on to the stories section. So as you probably know, stories make for great content. People love hearing stories. Whether it's stories about your own life or about your client's life, I really encourage all of you to sometimes tell stories about your own experience, but try to tell more stories, if you can, about your clients' experiences. Or something you don't have enough clients yet to be able to tell stories. You can tell stories about something you see in the news and how that relates to your framework. Okay? So, or something you see on social media, and how does that relate to your framework? Okay? So when it comes to client stories, what is a triggering event or problem that causes your client to seek out a solution like yours? What is a triggering event? So for example, if you were healing people in the, you're in the health industry, a triggering event could be that they just got a diagnosis from a doctor about something. And now they're like, oh my God, I got to look for a holistic solution because I don't believe in the mainstream stuff so much. What is a holistic solution for this particular illness? That might be a triggering problem. Or if you're in the relationship space, a triggering event could be that, oh my God, I think my spouse might be cheating on me. I'm not sure. I mean, that's terrible to think about that, but it could be something like that, right? Or, in my space, a triggering event actually could be that someone is turning a certain age and they're like, oh my God, I haven't done my life's work yet, right? Or it could be that, interesting, I find that, sometimes people are caretakers of their parents, and then the parent has passed now, and now they're like, okay, I am now like, I have to do my work now. I'm actually completed really caring for my kids and my parents, and now I have to do my work. And that was a triggering problem for them, right? To then seek out my help. So this is actually a story arc. What was the triggering problem? How did you help the client apply your framework to their situation? Okay, so your framework to their solution, to their situation. And then what was or is the result? Now, if you have worked with a client for a long time, that's going to be a really long story. That could be a book. But what I'm saying here is just tell part of that story. It's like, okay, my client received this, diagnosis from a doctor. She started searching for holistic solutions to, XYZ problem. She found me, and she heard of me from a friend, and then we started applying this particular modality, and she is feeling so much better now. You know, she is now able to do this, that, you know, do X, Y, Z she wasn't able to do before. And she has a lot more hope now for the future of her condition with it. You know, something like that. So it can be something as short as what I just said. It took me 30 seconds just to say that. But any detail you can put in there each time you tell the story or tell part of the story will make your story more credible. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next section, which is social media. And these are all kind of brainstorming ideas, right? So if you go to, for example, Facebook, go to the Facebook profile of an ideal client of yours. What are they sharing on Facebook? What are they sharing? Just go to their Facebook, look at their timeline. What are they sharing? All right, maybe they shared 20 things the past month. Just look at the 20 things they shared. Was there anything they shared that's even remotely related to your framework, to your expertise, to what you can help people with? Or did they share some kind of current event that you could spin off of to talk about based on how you like to think about it from your framework? Am I making sense here? If you can relate what you write to what people, your ideal audience, is sharing on social media, what you share is going to be so much more relevant than just talking off the top of your head. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, and then Noe says, how do we share stories about ourselves but not make it seem salesy? I totally agree with you, Noe, on that question. I do see a lot of people in my industry like, oh, just got off a client call and blah 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 blah. Like, okay, all right, chill out. You know, I almost never do that, but I do say in my videos sometimes, you know, a client asks me this question, and here's my thought on that. I'm not going to reveal the client's name, obviously. Or a client was just recently going through this challenge, and here's how I used my method to solve that. In other words, if your content has a takeaway for the audience who isn't your client yet, that is a useful piece of content. If your content is I just got off a client call and my clients love me so much, here's the link to my website. That is desperation masked as being interesting, in my opinion. I know I'm harsh on that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So make sure you have make sure the content is primarily of use to the reader who is or is not your client yet. Someone who might become your client, but it's of use. And use your client's story or use your own story as a way to frame it to make it more interesting and provide an example. Rather than making the story about your client, how great you are, the main thing. Make sense? Okay. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. Keywords. Okay. A keyword is basically, all right, can somebody put in the chat, think about your ideal client. What might they be typing in? Think about your ideal client and they're thinking about the problem that you can help them solve. What might they type into Google to try to find out more about that problem or more about that solution? Go ahead and, okay, Kathy, thank you. Midlife dating, all right, good. Have more energy, thank you, Kelsey and Amy and Jan. Okay, so let's go to Google and literally just go to google.com. You need to go to google.com for this. You can't just type it into the Chrome bar. I mean, you can, but it's better, I think, to go to google.com. Okay. All right, Claire says, what is my purpose? Okay, so I'm gonna start typing that in. What is my purpose? Okay, look at this. I haven't finished typing this yet, and Google is giving me the most popular keywords based on what Claire's, the people that Claire helps are likely to search. What is my purpose? So before you type in everything, you start looking every single letter you type. Is there some other suggestion? Right? What is my purpose in life? What is my purpose? You pass butter. What? Okay, what does mean? What does my purpose mean? Quiz on Earth. So you want to look for the things that are relevant. What is my purpose in life? Test. Okay, so people want to take a test to figure out, all right, Claire, you should be doing this in life, right? So these are all relevant. Purpose in life, purpose on Earth, purpose in life test. Maybe, you might not want to come up with a test, but just purpose on Earth, purpose in life, and purpose. So Claire, you could write a blog post, and it would be good for you to write at least one blog post, if not multiple. One of them could be, what is my purpose in life? Question mark. It could be the title of a blog post, because people are obviously searching for that. Make sense? Kathy earlier, I think she wrote midlife dating. Midlife. Okay, type in midlife. Crisis women. Midlife crisis age. Lyrics form. What is that? Midlife crisis band. Faith No More. What? Oh, that guess that's probably a song. So midlife crisis women, midlife dating. Oh, interesting. Midlife dating, red flags at 50. So midlife dating advice, midlife dating blog, midlife dating coach. Hey, people are searching for that, right? Midlife dating etiquette. So Kathy, write a blog post called Midlife Dating Etiquette. And if you write that, people are likely to perk up when they see that on social media. Oh, midlife dating etiquette, that makes sense to me. Whatever we're seeing here that Google is suggesting to us makes sense to a lot of people. Otherwise, it would not be showing up here in the suggested searches. So these are keywords that make sense to people. So if you write as a topic or title on these things, people are going to go, oh, that makes sense to me. I'm interested in reading this. And not just makes sense, but they're resonant. So if I go and click on midlife dating etiquette, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. Now, you can get further keyword suggestions by scrolling down to the bottom, searches related to midlife dating etiquette at the bottom of the Google search result. Dating over 50, first kiss. Ooh, right? That's a good question. That's a good blog topic. Dating advice for over 50. So it looks like 50 is an age that people typically resonate with saying that's midlife. I think that's been changing these days. I think 50 is young now, but yeah, so that's what people seem to be typing in. Dating over 50 sites, dating over 50, at 50 red flags, 50s and 60s. So these are further potential topics for you to blog about, to make a video about, to post on social media about, right? Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's keep going here. So yeah, write those in here. What are the potential keywords that make sense to people, that are relevant to people? Because gosh, Google tells us people are searching for that. Prioritize these keywords based on what you would most like your website to be found on. Okay, we already went to Google and started typing this. Notice related searches at the bottom. Okay, so for each of your top keywords, create articles or make videos, if you like, that are an integration of the top 3 searches. Okay, so this is a bit more of an advanced way of doing it. So what I mean is this. Midlife dating etiquette. You could just write an article about that. Or to make your article even higher quality, read these 3 posts. Read this one. I mean, click through and actually read it. And as you're reading each of the top 3 results, you're reading each of the top 3 posts, I want you to answer these questions. What do I disagree with from that article? Because I am sure, okay, if you go here and you read this article, okay, so first of all, this is from a man. And Kathy, your perspective is going to be obviously different, especially for women. So what do you disagree with from what Ken is writing here? And you don't have to message him, but it's just privately, what do you disagree with? What's not quite right from what he's writing? Okay, write that down. And then what do you agree with that you could say in your own way? So it's like, okay, Ken says, dating profiles don't really explain a person. Chemistry requires face-to-face. Online dating has limitations. Yeah, I agree with that. And what I would say to that is that the online profile does need to say what is like a non-negotiable. Like you want to be weird enough on the profile where your soulmate is going to say, you know what, that's my woman, right? So that's an example of how I'm saying yes and, right? This is what I would say. And then finally, what's a related idea that is missing, but it's important? So of everything Ken wrote here, what didn't he cover that you think is really important for dating over 50? Make sense? Write your answer to these 3 questions for the top 3 results, and then integrate your answers for all those things into an article. And what you're doing now is you're creating an incredibly relevant and quality article, because you already know that these are quality articles. Otherwise, Google would not be putting them at the top. These are at the top because people are linking to them. People say, wow, that was really useful. So if you can take what's useful and enhance it upon that, keeping what's good and saying from your perspective what isn't good, you will be creating something truly amazing. Make sense? Okay. So keep doing that for your top keywords, and your content is going to fly. People are going to share it forward. Your ideal audience is going to love it. So remember this, search engines want to be as useful to people as possible, right? So if you help them achieve that with your website, your site will be ranked well. That's the bottom line. Like Google wants you to click on this first link, read this and say, that was the perfect solution to what I was searching. I don't need to go back to Google to search that thing. That is the key of SEO for 2017 and 2016 and probably 2018 as well, okay? So if people click through and you only write a little bit, it's like, it's okay. They're going to click back to Google and they're going to keep clicking through, and Google's going to say, that article wasn't that good because they came back to Google. So make that thing that you're writing, it's like, oh, that was really useful. It doesn't have to be long, but it's got to be useful. Okay. So let's go to, here's the thing. People search Google when they want some answers, right? People search Amazon when they're ready to pay for some answers. So why don't you, and this is what I'm going to start doing, because I just had this aha moment recently. How many of you, and I want to see this by taking off the screen share. How many of you have bought Amazon Kindle books and haven't read them yet? Raise your hand. Okay, that's some of you. Okay, how many of you have bought Amazon Kindle books and just read maybe the first chapter or two? Okay, so if you combine those two, what we're discovering here in this informal survey, which is probably quite indicative of other Kindle readers, your Kindle book needs to have an amazingly great title, which of course needs to be relevant for your Kindle book, but it also needs to have a really great first chapter. That's it. No, not that you only have one chapter in the book, but the rest of the book doesn't matter as much because maybe, 5% of the buyers will ever read it? Am I making sense? So why not, everybody, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start publishing books on a regular basis on Kindle, 5 to 15,000 words, which is basically a couple of my best blog posts. I'm going to take 10 of my best blog posts, have it edited, take my very, very best blog post, put it in the very front as chapter 1, and publish it. Because you and I are missing out on the most important search engine in terms of buying intent, which is Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest search engines in the world. People search Google, of course, but people also go to Amazon to search for answers. But when they search for Amazon, they're ready to buy something. They're ready to buy a tool, a book, some product to help them solve the problem. So I hope this is an aha moment for you. 5 to 15,000 words, which is basically about 10 blog posts. A really long blog post is 1,500 words. So that's 10 blog posts. A short blog post might be 500 words. So that's, 5,000 words is 10 blog posts. 10 blog posts, okay? Publish Kindle books, people. And you'll get a lot more people finding you, go, oh my God, I paid for your book. I love your book. And put a call to action after chapter 1. Great chapter 1. And then after chapter 1, it says, hey, if you want to download a worksheet that goes through this, or hey, if you want to get my regular latest tips on this topic, go to my website, or to read more about this. So have some kind of call to action after chapter 1, and also have the call to action at the end of the book as well. So that's my new strategy that I'm really excited by. Okay. So I'm going to just show you this real quick here. How is it different? We already talked about this, right? So how did your framework differ from the other frameworks out there, differ from mainstream ideas about how people solve the problem? How's it different? If you can create more content on that, I really encourage you to create at least one piece of content a month about how your framework is different. And again, not in terms of, hey, look how great I am, but more like, I really don't think that this mainstream approach is useful for the kind of people I help because of this. Do you resonate with that? And here's why this kind of thing is better for you. So something useful, right? Try to do that at least once a month. Okay, so finally, let's see here. Natural ways of creating content. I know that was one of the questions that some of you had. Like, how do I create content in a way that feeds my natural energy instead of feeling like it's a slog, right? So what I do is every client session that I have, here's a form that you can copy if you want. Meaning just take down the questions on here. Imagine after every client session, you ask these 3 questions of yourself. What results or progress did they celebrate? What questions did they ask? And what solutions did you give? And did you give them any other assignments or any other exercises? Because these things are all pieces of content that you can share. Make sense? So this results or progress can become part of a story, and then you can of course talk about how the reader or how the watcher can use something to get closer to that result. What question did they ask in the session with you? Well, that question could become a video or a blog post, right? Any other assignments or exercise you gave them that you think you can describe in a way that the reader or video watcher can benefit from, right? You can basically create a Google form for yourself, and you basically fill this out after every client session, and then once a week or once every 2 weeks, go back and look at your own results to kind of start creating some content from that. Yeah, let's see if I can do this here. Client session, post-session form. Okay, there it is. There's the form. Okay. Another really natural way of creating content is to get interviewed. How many of you do better when you're answering questions from somebody else, right? Okay, Barbara raised her hand. So yes, get interviewed. And guess what? You've just met a bunch of people right here in this session that you trade interviews with. I mean, you might want to get to know each other a bit better and see that the audience is the right fit. But if the audience is the right fit and you really jive with that person, interview each other. And just talk. I mean, I've been doing this with my clients. Like I interview my clients on my Facebook page, and I really ask them questions that I'm curious about. And it makes them answer questions that basically creates content. So it's a great way. Really, really recommend it. Okay, a couple of tips on creating free content, okay? Now, one of the questions, Rosalie says, how about having the client fill out the post-session form? Yeah, I do that as well. But not every client, looking at some of you here, fill that out. Whoops, sorry. Don't mean to show that. Let me go to email settings. I want to show you what I send. Follow-up email. Okay, so this is what my clients get at the end of the session. It says brief follow-up. So here's a link to schedule our cleaning sessions if they want to do that. Based on our coaching today, I'd love for you to take a moment to reply. What was your most important takeaway? What are you excited to do before our next session? What's one thing I did well and one thing I can do better to serve you in our next session? It's always good to be asking for feedback, always. And I'll tell you, truthfully, most clients don't respond to this. But when the clients do respond, it's useful sometimes. But I mean, whether or not clients respond, it's good for you to ask the question yourself, because you notice certain things during the session, right? Okay, so one of the so let me talk about white belt content. Imagine an Aikido dojo, a place where they teach Aikido. I use Aikido instead of like Taekwondo or whatever, because it's much more harmonious. So imagine Aikido dojo. There are white belts in there and there are black belts in there. You will notice that for every basic class, if the dojo is big enough, you will notice that there are both white belts practicing the various holds as basic holds, as well as the black belts are practicing the same holds. Now, why is it that black belts also appreciate practicing the same basic holds? Because they're practicing it at a deeper, more nuanced level. They know how important that foundation is. Make sense? So I really encourage you, when it comes to free content, create white belt content. Create white belt content, because then it will resonate with the white belts, resonate with the green belts, the brown belts, and the black belts. Okay? So In other words, make content that's easy to consume, not something in depth. If you're teaching anything that's like, all right, you got to now take the next half hour to really implement this idea, that is not white belt content. And that needs to be a paid workshop like I'm doing with you. And for those of you who have followed me for a long time, maybe you haven't followed me recently, I've changed my mind on free content recently. From 2014 through 2016, I was preaching the gospel that all content should be free. All content should be free. Everything should be free. Okay, because that'll move humanity forward faster, et cetera, et cetera. And I still believe that to a certain extent. But now I want to add on top of that, that free content needs to be white belt and easy to consume, and also easy for you to create, ideally, so that there's low investment on everybody's part. Because if you spend all this effort creating a free piece of content, and then there's crickets, nobody likes it, or very few people like it, you're going to get discouraged. And I don't want you getting discouraged. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So make free content something easy for you. So what do? I don't put on my nice jacket when I do my free content. I don't brush my hair. I'm out walking my dog when I do my free content. I'm out walking my dog. And then walking my dog, Buddy's playing somewhere, and looking at Buddy right here. And then I'll take out my phone and I'll just kind of walk with my phone. And I used to even bring my selfie stick, but I somehow lost the selfie stick, so forget it. Now I use my arm again. For the past 3 months, I'm using my arm in all my videos. And you might say, George, how do you make your videos so stable? For those of you who know about video creation, like, George, how do you make your videos so stable? Like, it looks like somebody's doing your videos for you. No, it's my arm. But the way I make it so stable is I go to YouTube, I upload the video to YouTube, and then I'll show you actually. After I upload the video to YouTube, after I upload it, I'm going to show you. Okay. So for example, this is one of my recent videos. Once the video is uploaded to YouTube, okay, and it has processed, which sometimes takes half an hour, you will then be able to come into the edit section of the video and click on enhancements. But again, only after the video has finished processing. And then you will be able to click on the stabilize button right here, stabilize, and then click save. And then it'll take another half hour to process, because check this out. You notice on the left, this is shaky. This is my arm, okay? On the right, this is stabilized. Notice how smooth that is. It's not as dizzying. And by the way, you might say, well, how come the video is so grainy? It's because in the enhancements section, when you're just previewing, it looks really grainy. But when you actually go to the video itself, it's not so grainy. So just so you know. So there you go. See how smooth that is? That's my arm. Okay, so if you're wondering, it's using. So what I then do is, after I have stabilized the video, I will then go into my video manager down on the left-hand side here, video manager, and I will click on this icon, this little button here, and I will download MP4. So now I've downloaded the stabilized version of my walking video. And then I will go to my Facebook, okay? Go to my Facebook fan page, and I will then upload the video directly, not posting a YouTube video. I'm not doing that. I'm uploading the video directly onto Facebook by clicking on add photos or video. And I upload the actual file of the video. I don't have it right here with me, and that way, what goes onto Facebook is my stabilized video. Make sense? So those of you who do walk, I mean, even if you don't do a walking video, even if you're just like holding your phone like at home, it's probably going to be shaky anyway because your arm is not perfectly stable. So I recommend the stabilize button whenever the camera is not stable, okay? Okay, all right, so let's go to, okay, so I was talking about white belt content. So basically, I think of content in 3 stages. Some of you have heard me talk about this, but I think it's always good to be reminded. Stage 1 is what I call, oh, and Leslie says, George, why not just do Facebook Live? No, that's a great, valid question. Because I typically record even my casual videos, I'll admit, I typically record my casual videos even like 3 times. So typically it's on a Saturday when I have longer time to walk Buddy, and I'm in some like forest area. I'll say, I'm going to take the next half hour to create my videos for the week. I usually do 3 videos a week. And each video takes me about maybe 10 minutes to make because I like practice once talking through it. It's okay. I do a second time. Maybe the second time is good enough, and that's good enough. And when I say good enough, I don't mean, wow, I didn't make any stumbles. That was like perfect. No, it's just that I didn't make any, it wasn't too painful to watch. Okay, that's my criteria for stage 1 content. It's not too painful to watch. Maybe just a little bit painful, but not too painful. And so just give yourself 2 or 3 takes when it comes to stage 1 content. Now, that's why I don't do Facebook Live, because Facebook Live is only 1 take. Now, for those of you who find yourself doing 54 takes before you think it's good enough, you need to do Facebook Live because your perfectionism is getting in the way. So Facebook Live is excellent for those of you who are perfectionists. Hey, I turn on Facebook Live, I only have 1 take, and I know that once I start talking, I'm okay. It's just I'm really nervous. Any of you feel that way? I'm really nervous before I talk. But once the words start coming, it's okay, it's doable. Then Facebook Live is great. The other reason I don't do Facebook Live is because I'm trying to model minimal marketing. And this is weird coming from a marketer. Like and this is going to be ironic when I say this, I try to explore what humility means in marketing. I'm always trying to explore what that means. Of course, the person who says they're exploring humility is not humble. But I think too many people do Facebook Lives all the time. And yes, your friends all get notified about it. I don't know. It's just too self-promotional for me anyway. So I do pre-recorded videos for that reason and for the reason I can do multiple takes before I upload it. So there you go. Okay, so stage 1 content. Stage 1 is called share and don't care. Okay, share and don't care. Casual, I'm walking in the dog park. Hey, I upload 3 videos a week. I have 4,000 fans on my business page. Am I sad if I get only 4 likes on my stage 1 video? I've gotten over it. I'm like, I share and I don't care. I mean, I care in the sense that I care that I'm being of service, but I don't care if people like or not like my stage 1 content. It's just my brainstorming. So stage 1, let it be casual, let it be brainstorming, let it be the way that you explore your voice and your message. Basically, I know some of you are introverts and you prefer to figure out what you're going to say before you say it. I agree with that. But when you start saying it, it's going to sound different. And so stage 1 content, or when you start writing it, it's going to be different. So stage 1 content is a way for you to explore, share and don't care. It's experimental. It's kind of like you're flying a paper airplane. And when you fly a paper airplane, you don't care if it takes a nosedive, right? Because you can just pick it back up, you fix the airplane, a little bit, and then you fly it again. You fly as many paper airplanes as you want. Stage 1 content is not having a baby. Okay? Too many of you think, oh my God, I write a blog post. It's so important. 2 likes? My world is ended. No, stage 1. Stage 2 content is to look at your stage 1 content from the previous week or month and say, what did well? Of the 3 videos I did in the past week, which video did particularly well? Great. I will take that 1 video and I will spend more time writing about it, and maybe I'll do it a second take or I'll record it again and I'll post it again. So stage 2 is what's loved, make it even better. What's loved, make it even better. You edit and you reshare it. Now you can even repurpose it into a different format. That's how I do it. I take a video that was pretty good, that people seem to like more than the other ones, and then I will now turn that into a blog post because I tend to talk my ideas out. For those of you who prefer to write your ideas out, you need to go the other way. You need to do stage 1 content being written, and then stage 2 content being taking what you've written, editing it, and then doing a video on it. Taking the top 3 ideas and just speaking it out on video. Okay. Interestingly, here's the thing. I have noticed that no matter how bad my video is, seriously, if the idea is relevant, it gets lots of likes. It's the weirdest thing. I have some videos, I'm like, that was a really well done, production quality, that was pretty darn good. I even have some videos where I did put on a jacket and I talked like this, and I had nice lighting and everything. And the idea just wasn't that relevant. And people are like, meh, it's not that great. But if it's like even a shaky video, but the idea is like, wow, that was really, really good point. People love it. So it's really not about production quality. That's what I've noticed. So share and don't care, that really does make sense. It's the idea that people will share forward, not how great. I mean, yes, of course, occasionally there are always those viral videos where, but those are exceptions. I'm talking about on a regular basis, you will notice production quality or how well you write doesn't matter as much as how good the idea was. Not good, meaning how relevant it was to your people. Okay, so stage 2 is what's loved, make it better. And stage 3 is to integrate and formalize. Integrate and formalize. So take your past 3 pieces of stage 2 content, for example, or take your past 10 blog posts, turn it into a Kindle book. That's stage 3. Okay, or take, Claire asked a question earlier, like, okay, George, you're telling us about integrating the top 3 Google results, and that's quite a bit of work. That doesn't sound like stage 1 to me, and you're right. That's more like stage 2. So stage 1 might be like, okay, I'm going to talk about one idea I have about midlife dating over 50. Just going to talk about a couple, and I might make 5 videos talking about my various ideas about midlife dating over 50. And are my ideal audience resonating with that? Oh, people really love that stuff, especially when I talk about this and this. Great. I'm going to Google this, and I'm going to integrate the top 3 articles, and I'm going to make stage 2 content from that. So yes. And my stage 3 content right now, I know I'm going to be doing Kindle books soon, but my stage 3 content right now is my workshops. I basically take my best stage 2 ideas and I turn it into a workshop. That's what you're seeing right here. This is formalized and monetized as well, right? So it could be a workshop, it can be an online course, it could be an ebook, a Kindle book, a real book, paper book. It could be it could become your framework, your newest framework or part of it. That's what stage 3 means. Integrate and formalize. Okay? Zuzka has a great metaphor. I like the metaphor of a cherry tree, that it creates 1,000 blossoms. And though only one pit may take hold on the ground and grow another tree, the blossoms provide fruit for birds, and the flowers provide beauty and then fall to the ground to enrich the earth. But no one would ever call it wasteful or say you shouldn't have grown that particular blossom. Yeah, it's great. That's perfect, actually. Stage 1 is all those blossoms falling to the ground and nourishing others. Stage 2, actually, there is no stage 2 there, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's go on to, let's see here. What do I want to go on to? You know what? Let's go ahead and do a breakout session. And we're going to do trios. And I would love for you to time yourself. So if you have a phone with you or can get a timer, go ahead and time yourself. And each person has, basically, we're running short on time a bit. So each person has 4 minutes. And here's how I'd love for you to spend your 4 minutes for each person. Take about 2 minutes to tell your framework, any part of it. Maybe it's just one part of your framework, okay? 2 minutes. Okay, here's one part of my framework. Or if you're not sure yet, here's my whole framework in 2 minutes. And then the other 2 minutes is where your partners will give you feedback on what they particularly resonated with as part of your framework and what was really confusing or what didn't make sense at all, okay? In a kind way, right? So yeah, if you don't want to be in a group, you don't have to. But it's always been a really positive experience for those who were able to. And I should say this, see people are dropping off here. We haven't gotten to talking about building an email list yet. So that's coming out after the breakout group. We're talking about building an authentic email list. So hopefully that gives you a reason to stay. But if you don't want to be in a breakout, that's fine. But I'll tell you, it's almost always a positive experience for people. People are so glad they have it. So time yourself, 4 minutes per person. And I'm going to now set up the breakout rooms here. It's going to be 3 people per room. And Zoom always has this automatic pairing that is oftentimes magical. So look for the synchronicity in who you're in the room with. And first, I'm going to unmute, and I will also broadcast a message giving you a heads up when 4 minutes are up, and then another 4 minutes. Okay? So, okay, here we go. Go ahead and click on the join breakouts.
Where is it?
It's right on the screen. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't see it yet. Sorry. There you go.
There
now
it
you
is.
can see it. We're almost done. Oh my God, welcome back, everyone. I hope that was a good experience. You're welcome to chat if you want to share how that experience was. And we'll have everyone coming back in just a moment, so 10 more seconds. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Welcome back. I'd love to know how that experience was for you. If you would like to chat, just a few words, how that was, that'd be great. Wonderful. Great. Jason, thank you. Tim, thanks. Noe, Ian, Claire, Rosalie, Kathy, Inga, Char, Nina, Amy. That's great. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Okay. All right. So I hope that was a nice change of pace here, because I mean, just 2 hours of me yammering on is not necessarily the best thing. So let's keep going. Let's talk about, I want to talk about building an authentic email list. Okay. So typically the way that this is taught is that you have what's called an ethical bribe. And can you already see what my thoughts are on that? There is no such thing as an ethical bribe. A bribe is a bribe, and there's something shady about a bribe. But typically that's what marketers teach us. Have an ethical bribe where they're going to sign up for your video series or whatever it is, and they get it. If they just put their email address in, they're gonna get that thing, and then by the way, you will email them for the rest of your life. How many of you have been on the receiving end of that? How many of you have opted in for a free gift? And you're like, oh my gosh, this person is emailing me forever. Like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And of course, nowadays, what a lot of people do is they opt in and then they unsubscribe immediately. How many of you have done that, right? So the thing about people not unsubscribing, though, is that you will find that your open rates for your email newsletters are extraordinarily low. And the click rates are also very, very low. And eventually, people start not only unsubscribing, but even worse, they click spam in their email inbox. So if somebody clicks the spam button when you send an email newsletter, even just one or two has a major impact on what's called your email deliverability, which means how likely are your other emails going to be sent to the people that you're wanting to send to. So some email newsletters have pretty much jeopardized their email deliverability. Lots of their emails are going to people's spam boxes because they were using opt-in freebies. Now, I have to say that I used to teach this. I used to teach this because everybody else was teaching this. And I thought, well, if everybody else was teaching this, then that must be the right thing, right? Well, not everybody, but everybody I was around was teaching this. Whether it's you have a free course, a free ebook, free video series, a telesummit, a free webinar, like I'm supposed to put all of you on my email list now, all of you, regardless of whether or not you wanted me to. And I just don't think that's ethical. And not only is it not ethical, you're not going to have a great experience, and I'm not going to have a great experience when you start ignoring my emails. So what I recommend nowadays is to let the people think of your email list, your email newsletter, as a service, a free service of convenience for your ideal audience. What a difference that is. It's not, I'm going to try to bait you into I'm going to try to bait you into getting marketing emails from me. That's what most marketers teach us. No. I want you to see and appreciate my content so much that you're like, you know what, George, I have to get your latest. I don't want to miss out on your latest videos. For those who join my weekly newsletter, that's what they're thinking. I don't want to miss out on George's latest videos. I'm not going to catch it all the time on social media. Right? That's not reasonable. So I want rather get it via email. It'd be nice to get it on a once weekly, here are the top 3. I just sent one out this morning for those of you who received it, right? And then I have my monthly people who say, you know what, George, I like your content, but I don't want to get weekly emails from you. I just want once a month, George, I want you to give me your stage 2 content. And that's what the monthly email is for. And FYI, for those who are signed up for the weekly list, you of course also get the monthly. Basically, I do weekly. Actually, I'm now switching. I used to send my monthly newsletter out at the end of the month, and I was like, doesn't make sense because it's like my end of the month, end of March, I sent the March newsletter, and that sounds old. So now I'm skipping April, and I'm going to send the next monthly at the beginning of May, giving the best stage 2 content from April. And I really like the strategy. I've been using it now for since the end of 2014, and it's been great for a couple of reasons. One is that my email newsletters have a higher open rate than just about everybody that I know who's in my peers. And I will actually show you what my email newsletter open rates are. How do you like that? You don't get to see this from most marketers. I'm going to show you my MailChimp here. Okay. Now I have to say something here. I used to have, let's scroll down to 2014 and earlier. Okay. I used to have 15, 16,000 people on my email list. Okay. And I personally removed, not personally, I segmented and removed more than 90% of my email subscribers. I say, George, how can you do that? What do you mean? I removed the people who had not opened or clicked my emails in at least 6 months. And I figure, hey, if they're not opening my emails or clicking on any of the links inside for 6 months, I don't want to keep bothering them because eventually they're going to click spam. Eventually too many people are going to unsubscribe and MailChimp is going to start punishing me. They have punished me before when I was a normal marketer. Okay. And get this. So that was my last email to my 15,000 people was in November 2014. Look at this. Okay, November 2014. Okay, let me just show you here. November 2014. Clicks. Okay, opens is fine. You know what? Opens is basically they opened the email, but the way that my emails work, even November 2014, I was already sending snippets of my best posts and people had to click through to read the whole thing. So if they weren't clicking through to read the whole thing, they're not really engaged with my content. Do you see what I mean? So the click rate is what matters. And you might say, George, how does MailChimp know how many people open your email? Well, there is something called an invisible pixel that they put into the email that if your email software allows images, then it loads that invisible tiny pixel and it sends a signal to MailChimp saying, Cindy just opened your email. But a lot of people, especially at work, they don't have images enabled on their email. And so MailChimp or whatever, Aweber, whatever you use, Constant Contact, will not know whether they opened the email. So the open rates are always lower than the actual number of opens that you're getting, okay? So, but what matters is not the literal number of opens that you're getting. What matters is how you are benchmarking yourself against those in your industry. And to know what the benchmark is, go to Google and search email marketing benchmarks, okay? And go past the ads. And typically the first result is going to be email marketing benchmarks from MailChimp. MailChimp is proud to say that I use and love MailChimp, and they're also a very service-oriented company. I feel like I tend to have a really good intuition about technologies these days in terms of what their spirit is like. And I really like the spirit of MailChimp. They're always doing their best to serve their customers and serve the world. So they publish their full, and they update it every couple of months. So this is pretty recent, February 1st, 2017. And these are the benchmarks, okay? And like I said, actual open rates are always higher than what any email service provider is able to sense. But that's why we just benchmark. That's why we just say, okay, basically the industry average is about this, and I'm about this. So if we go down to, most of us are probably going to be in consulting or education and training. So basically somewhere around 20%, low 20s for the open rate, okay? Low 20s for the open rate, for the industry average. The click rate down here, click rate is about 2.5%, right? Consulting, if we just average that out, it's about 2.5%. So when I was a normal marketer, like you might learn from elsewhere, my click rate was 1%. That's like less than half of the industry average. And my open rate was 14%. That's lower than the industry average. Okay, fast forward to having removed the people who don't actually want to hear from me, okay? Now I've removed more than 90% of my people. And let's go to November. Let's go 2 years later. Okay, November of 2016. Okay, November 2016. Here we go. Look at my open rates now. 40%. I am now double the industry average in my open rate, which means these are people who want to hear from me. And my click rate is 8.3%. That is almost 4 times higher. No, I'm sorry. 2.5. So that's about 3.5 times higher than the industry average. Make sense? And so look at this, 134 clicks. So 134 people clicked to read something within the email to read the full thing. Let's go back to 2014 when I was doing the normal way of marketing, which is using ethical bribes, so-called ethical bribes. Okay, November 2014, 148 people clicked. I had 15,000 people. Only 148 versus, 134. So it's not that much of a difference, right? And I of course, I'm continuing to grow. It's 134 versus 148. I mean, that's amazing. That's ridiculous. And of course, now I keep growing it. Look at this, January. Okay, that was a weekly list. Hold on, let me go to a monthly one. 116, February monthly was I sent a particularly interesting email. So 153. So I'm already getting past the number of actual engagers in that's what I want for you. That's what I want for you, is to have an engaged email list. Does that make sense? So I know some of you, I know actually some of my clients, I was already I changed my thoughts on email ethical bribes only a few months ago. So even some of my clients are still using ethical bribes, which I think is okay. But I really recommend you change it over time towards not get this free thing, okay? Rather, get my best updates about XYZ topic. Here is some of what you'll get. Bullet point 1, intriguing topic. Bullet point 2, intriguing topic. Bullet point 3, intriguing topic. Make sense? So let me show you what I actually do on my website. And I really do recommend this for everyone. So on my website, do you see an email opt-in box above the fold? No, you don't. I mean, there's no email opt-in box, period, on my homepage. What I mean by above the fold is before people scroll down, that's called above the fold. And typically, you will see an email opt-in box either somewhere on the right here, somewhere up here, somewhere on the left, or somewhere down here above the fold. This is kind of like asking for somebody's phone number when you barely even know them and have a connection. Does that make sense? It's kind of like that, and it feels uncomfortable, and people feel like, ooh. Now it's nowadays it's feeling a little uncomfortable, like, oh, email address to do what before I even know you. Okay, so what I do is I have the newsletter tab up here that people can click on to get to my newsletter. I even have a monthly sub tab here where people can see, literally, they can read all of my monthly newsletters without opting in. This is my full monthly March newsletter. And then they can read all of them. I mean, I of course I only leave like a year or so up here, and then to subscribe to this free newsletter, click here. I also, for the rest of my web pages, for all my other web pages on my site, the homepage doesn't even have anything except up here, newsletter. But for all the other pages, I have the footer that says George Gao's email newsletter. So it's not that hard to find. It's at the top and it's at the bottom. And the other place is I put links sometimes to my email newsletters at the bottom of my videos. Videos is basically my main way of doing stage 1 content. So for example, this is from today, stage 1 content. At the bottom of my video description, I say, hey, basically this video was about on the topic of money, healthy money. And so I say, hey, you want to read my best articles about healthy money? Go there. And so people go there. Okay, and there's Buddy right there. And then scroll down and they can read the best articles I have on healthy money. And then scroll down to receive my best articles via monthly email, click here. So there it is again. Now, my blog, okay? My blog, so for example, for my blog posts, I think have a call to action to join my email newsletter. So at the bottom of my blog post, I say, to get George's best articles through email, subscribe. So in other words, it's not impossible to find, but it's also not annoying. Does that make sense? It's not too forward. And as a result, I have built a much more loyal audience. And yes, I don't get as many subscribes as my friends do who are using ethical bribes. Certainly not. I get fewer subscribes for sure, but I get enough. And the people who, I get very few unsubscribes. That's the other thing. Okay, so questions. Let me answer some questions here. Rosalie says, what if people sign up on an actual paper sign-up sheet that says that they'll receive the newsletter? Yeah, that's totally fine. So the main thing I want to communicate is that it's all about expectations, isn't it? As long as you are giving people what they expect, then they will love you, they will find you credible, and then they're much more likely to then sign up for something paid from you. But if you are giving if you're giving people what they did not expect in a bad way, then you are losing credibility very quickly, and you will have to do what I did: remove a large chunk of your email list with a very heavy heart, and it was very painful to do that, right? But I'm glad I haven't looked back. I kept those 90% on a spreadsheet just in case I regretted it, and I never imported them back. I did not regret it, and I wish that I started with the strategy I'm teaching. I wish I started that at the beginning of my business. Because if I started at the beginning of my business, I would have a larger loyal list today. But I basically started my new strategy just a couple years ago. And so, okay, question, how do you then build an email list? So let me kind of summarize that. Make it a service. Make it a free service of convenience for your people, something that they actually want, not something that they have to do. Does that make sense? There's a difference between, oh, I have to join this guy's email list versus, oh, I want to join this guy's email list, right? Secondly, put it at the bottom of your blog posts, okay? So just like you saw earlier, my blog posts have that, join George's email list. Thirdly, make it not so difficult to find, but not too forward either. Have a balance there. So have a tab in your website. At the bottom footer of your website, also have another, when people scroll down all the way, that means, gosh, they're engaged enough to go all the way down there. Then they're more likely to join your email list. Put it at the bottom of every web page that's relevant. Like I showed you earlier, my web pages that have my list of articles about healthy money, list of articles about authentic marketing. At the bottom of it, hey, if you want to get my best stuff via newsletter, you can join there. You can even put it towards top of that. I think that's acceptable. If someone goes specifically to your web page that lists your articles, then yeah, they might just want to say, you know what, I don't have time to read this right now, but I do want to get your best stuff. So you can put something subtle near the top. Says, hey, if you just want to get my best stuff via email, go there. Okay. Let me actually showcase a couple of effective email newsletters. I think were relatively effective. Okay. First of all, let me showcase what was not effective. Michael Hyatt is actually a good guy. I really like him. I think he's an ethical guy, but I don't know who is doing his marketing these days, because he has not emailed me in years. Okay, let me show you. He has not emailed me in years. Like what? 2014. I didn't even confirm my subscription, I think. Wow. And then suddenly in March, he starts emailing me. And the first email is a secret and a freebie, limited time only. Like, come on, people. Like, who are you talking to? You're not talking to a human. What am I? Like, am I that easy to lie to? Come on, am I that easy to manipulate? None of us are anymore, right? A secret and a freebie, limited time only, right? Let me tell you about what is authentic content. Here's my strategy for authentic content, right? Imagine a friend of yours who is supportive of you. Now, imagine this supportive friend. You could probably think of a supportive friend right now. Imagine that supportive friend introducing one of their friends to you because that friend of theirs really is interested in what you do. Make sense? And so let's say your supportive friend is Diane, and Diane is introducing Amy. You don't know Amy directly, but Diane and Amy are friends. So now Diane says, George, tell Amy about what you do. If I write an email to Amy, am I going to go, a secret and a freebie, limited time only? Diane's going to hear from Amy and says, dude, this George guy is, that guy is like, here's the email I sent Amy. By the way, I want to make sure everyone stays muted so that there's no any interference there. Okay. Hey, Amy, I'm here in your inbox with two things, a secret and a freebie. The secret first. You don't write to your friends like that. And you don't write to your friends of friends, because your friend is going to hear from your friend of a friend, and they're going to say, this guy or this gal is really, pushy or whatever. Does that make sense? Write to your friend of a friend. You don't want to disappoint that person, that middle person, and you want to just speak very genuinely. Oh, hey, Amy, I'm really glad you're here. From what I understand, you are needing this and that. And so that's basically what I do. I help people with this and that, or in this email, I want to share with you one technique that was really helpful to someone. Like, you see how down to earth I am? Be down to earth. Okay. And Mike, like I said, Michael is actually a good guy, and he's an ethical guy. I just think that whoever's managing his marketing, doesn't have a clue. And look at this. He hasn't emailed me in years, and suddenly he's emailing me secrets to this and first profitable. People, are you motivated first and foremost by money? Is that your number one priority in life? Well, probably not, because you're here in my audience. But most people aren't either. Most people aren't going, God, I want just to profit. People want meaning, People want to be in service. People want to have a great life, but it's just all about profit and business here. And the reason I say that, Michael's audience is mostly evangelical Christians. I mean, that's where he kind of came from. Not mostly, a lot of them are. And so Christians aren't also thinking money, 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 profit, profit, profit. He's not in touch with his audience with this campaign here. Suddenly emailing me many times in a month after. So how do you then the question is, well, George, how do you then email your list if you haven't emailed them in a long time? I think that's a really good question, right? So one of my colleagues, Lachlan, recently sent an email, okay, after not having emailed his list for a long time. And this is what he said. Hi, GK. I haven't been in touch for a while as I've been working on some new ideas and content. I hope things are going great for you. See, even that is something that I can imagine him writing me personally as an acquaintance or as a friend. Does that make sense? Down to earth. One of the topics I got interested in is how, if you want to make a difference and impact, it might feel like the rules of business have completely changed for you. It could feel like a whole new ball game, blah, blah, blah. Why? Now, what I would say to improve this is to add another paragraph before going into like, oh, this is what I'm going to teach you right now. I'm going to say, what I've been working on is I've been working on this. I've been getting this certification. I've been studying with this so-and-so. I've been serving my clients and really enjoying that experience. And I just kind of forgot about being in touch with you, my dear newsletters. So something like I've been doing something interesting, basically. You might even say, some people might say, why not just say, hey, I've been doing some interesting research. Like basically, you want to tell me something that is worth reading now that I haven't heard from you in a while. Make sense? So that's what Lachlan does here, blah, blah, blah. And then he actually gives a direct link, not an opt-in, but just, hey, download this thing that I've made. Now, I don't recommend that if you haven't emailed your list in a long time, you ask them to download a file, because that is a little bit too, internet privacy security issues. Just have it go to a blog post you wrote. So here's what I would do. Create a couple pieces of stage 1 content. Okay. Create a couple pieces of stage 1 content before you email your list if you haven't been in a long time. Step 1. Step 2 is look at what the stage 1 content was popular on social media that you shared and turn that into a stage 2 content. Okay. Something that is pretty good. You put on your website as a blog post. And that stage 2 content is what you then email to your newsletter that you haven't emailed for a long time. Because then it's already passed some tests of whether it's good or not. Okay, let's go to talking about, any other questions about email list building? And and of course, another important way to build an email list is to do some kind of event, like this workshop, for example. And at the end of the event, you send a feedback form, which includes whether or not they want to join your email list. So let me actually show you the feedback form. Okay. I'm actually going to post the feedback form right now. Okay. So in the chat, if you click on that link, it'll bring you to the feedback form. Fill out the feedback form, you'll get all the goodies, recordings, the chat transcript, the way to keep in touch with each other, the Q&A call that happens in a week from now. But notice on the feedback form, there is a question that says, if you scroll down towards the bottom of the feedback form, hey, optional, which of my email newsletters you want to subscribe to, right? And I think that is a nice, respectful way to invite people to join my email list who have come to an event, because I'm not forcing everybody who signed up to sign up for the email newsletter. And I'm giving them an option so that they're very conscious. You are very conscious. Say, okay, do I want the weekly? Do I want the monthly? Do I want to know about? So I actually have 3 separate newsletters, right? I have my weekly newsletter, which is all my stage 1 content. I have my monthly, which is my stage 2 content. And then I have my coaching and workshops newsletter, which is what I send like 2 or 3 a month that says, hey, here's my upcoming workshop, or last chance if you don't want to wait 6 months before this workshop is taught again. So I think it's really respectful to have separate email lists when you want to send an email that's marketing only related. I no longer send marketing only emails to my content list. So I think of my newsletter really in 2 buckets: content email newsletters and marketing emails. Marketing emails is, hey, sign up, pay me for the workshop, or hey, I have room for my coaching program, or whatever it may be that you are selling. That's a marketing email. And so if you say, well, George, I only have 1 email list right now, I only have my content list, then you can, in that content list, you can invite people at the top or the bottom of the list of any email to your content list to say, hey, do you want to learn, do you want to find out about my upcoming workshops, coaching, etc.? If so, click here and you'll be one of the first to find out. In your content newsletters, it is also acceptable to include a blurb about something you're selling, but not as the main thing. Does that make sense? So let your content emails be primarily content and have a blurb at the bottom about something you're selling, or invitation to a complimentary consultation, something like that. Because if you start sending marketing emails to your content list, that's when you start losing credibility and people go, wait, that's not what I expected from you, right? Okay. Okay, I want to give you a video resource document. Earlier, I did talk about a little bit about video stuff, but let me give you a video resource document right there in the chat. Andy says, is it okay just to have an image with a link back to a video, or should you have some of the text for the video with a click read more link? Remember, it's a video with a little blue header rather than the blog article. Okay, let me show you what I would recommend. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so you can even go to my blog to see what I actually do with my email newsletters, right? So this is literally what I sent out in the email newsletter. At the top, you know what? Let me actually show you. Let me show you an actual, just so that you're monthly. Okay, I did 2 subject lines, and then split testing is great. I really recommend that you split test your subject lines with all of your big emails, especially your monthly emails. Do a split test for subject lines, and MailChimp makes that easy to do. So I do 2 separate subject lines, and I send one subject line to whatever 5%, the other subject line to another 5%. See which one got the most clicks, okay, and then I'll send the other 90% to the one that the subject line that got the most clicks. Okay, so the subject line was monthly best, no more marketing funnels, blah blah blah, and then the actual campaigns is in this newsletter, and then basically a summary of what I'm doing. And also look at this, even at the bottom of the summary, I do give a link to, hey, if you want to join my upcoming workshop, there's a link right there. And then here's an image. Here's a summary, not summary. Here's the first couple paragraphs of that blog post, and then I have continue reading. That way, if they actually want to read the whole thing, they're going to have to click to read the whole thing. And so that really confirms who is engaged in my newsletters, right? Your services are good and unique enough, blah, blah, blah. That's the title. It's a few paragraphs, continue reading, blah, 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 continue reading. Same thing, if you're doing a video, do a few paragraphs or a paragraph or 2, and then watch the video, okay? And of course, you can also link the image itself, if you have the image of the video, to the video itself. Okay. Okay. Any other questions about newsletter building? Okay. The last thing I want to do is I want to encourage you to think about some kind of rhythm for your content. My rhythm, as you know by now, is on Saturdays, I record 3 videos, which I then drip throughout the rest of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, onto my YouTube and Facebook. And then once a week, I will send a weekly newsletter with my stage 1 content, my 3 videos of the week. And then once a month, I will send my stage 2 content. So that's basically my rhythm. What about you? And also another day during the week, usually Wednesdays or Thursdays, I will take the best video from the previous week and I'll turn it into stage 2 by writing a blog post and putting it on my blog. I haven't gotten into as much discipline about that, but I am definitely working on that, and that's what I intend to do going forward. So if you want to post your rhythm, what is a rhythm that makes sense for you, that you're excited by? Remember that content is a cause. Content is also exploration. And finally, content is attraction. Okay, so content is a cause. You are serving the world, no matter if anybody likes your Facebook post or not. Oh, Kelsey asked a question earlier that she says, "So George, if I don't have 4,000 fans yet on my fan page, how do we know what's popular in terms of content? If I only have 100 fans?" Here's the thing. Popularity, like right now, I might get 40 likes for a popular video on my fan page. A less than popular video might get only 4 likes. But for you, the numbers are different, right? So if you only have 100 fans, a non-popular video will get 0 likes, and a popular video might only get 1 or 2 likes. So it's all about the scale. But still, what happens, the way Facebook works, is that they will show your post to a few of your fans first. And if those few find that it's really good and they like it, Facebook goes, hey, it's kind of interesting. We'll show it to more of your fans. And the second tier likes it, then they'll show it to more of your fans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Generally speaking, Facebook does not show it to all your fans because Facebook wants you to pay to boost your post. So if you find that you are literally getting 0 likes or 0 comments for all of your content on your fan page, I do recommend spending $5 occasionally, maybe for all of it. Maybe just, hey, I'm going to budget $20 a month to Facebook boosting to my fans, and I'm going to make 1 posting a week or 1 video a week. I'm going to boost each of those for $5. And then you will see, after you boost those, which one is more popular, because the ones that are a good idea that is relevant to your audience, you'll see more of them like it, right? So content is a cause, it's a service. Remember that. It's important for you to say what you need to say and to say what you find is useful to others. No matter if Byron Katie has already said it, no matter if Wayne Dyer has already said it, no matter if Brendan Bush, who cares what everyone else has said? You need to say it because your fans and audience need to hear it in your voice. And secondly, content is an exploration of what is my message? What is my authentic voice? What is my authentic style? You won't know until you explore through content. That's the secret of it. Okay, so you have to. The more you are willing to share, the more you'll discover what your authentic voice is. And finally, as you do this, as you do it as an authentic sharing and as do it as a cause being useful to others, you will find that your ideal audience gets attracted to you. So with that, I'll end this workshop, and I will put the feedback form once again in the chat. And so go ahead and click on the feedback form. Make sure you don't lose it. So again, in the chat, click on the feedback form, and yeah, keep chatting if you like. It's fine. So that you have it. If you miss it, you will get an email, a follow-up email in about within half an hour with the feedback form link as well. Please fill out the feedback form today. Okay, so fill it. It takes 5 minutes. Do it today, because starting tomorrow, we're going to be logging who filled it out, and we'll be sending out the materials tomorrow. So if you filled out today, you'll get the materials tomorrow or Friday at the very latest. And I want to thank you for being here. And the last thing I always like to do is I like to take a group picture. So if you don't mind, this is a chance for you to practice smiling, which is always a good thing to end anything on or start anything and continue anything, smile. So 3, 2, 1. Hold on a second here. I got to figure out how to do a screenshot here. 3, 2, 1, smile. Look at the camera. Okay. So there are 2 screens. So I'm going to give you another chance to smile. Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1, smile. Smile from the heart. Okay. And I will put the images in the group chat at the bottom of that as well. So thank you so much. I'm going to unmute everyone so you can all say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
As always.
What was your favorite one?